Police in Myanmar's capital, Nay Pyi Taw, have fired rubber bullets at protesters demonstrating against the military coup. Live ammunition has also been used and a woman is in a critical condition after being hit in the head. These are pictures from today's protest in Yangon, where water cannon has been used against protesters. The authorities have also extended areas where gatherings are restricted. It comes as New Zealand is suspending all high-level contact with the military authorities in Myanmar. Well, our reporter Nay Pyi Taw has filed this report from the city of Yangon.
Widespread protests continue here in Myanmar for a fourth straight day, even though the military regime has banned gatherings of more than 5 people. Here, I am with a group of protesters gathering in front of UN Myanmar headquarters in Yangon. I have seen people from all different backgrounds, including the government staff. When I spoke to them, they are all fully aware of all risks, but they said the world must know what is happening in Yangon. Anti-coup protesters defying all the warning from the junta. Big rallies also continue in other major cities across the country. This is Nay Pyi Taw, BBC News, Yangon.
Well, earlier I spoke to our Southeast Asia correspondent Jonathan Head in Bangkok. He told me the protesters remain defiant.
Yes, they know about the risks. They've been told, of course, by their parents what happened in previous episodes of unrest where the army used extreme levels of lethal force at great cost in casualties. They know that's a possibility. I think there's such a sense of outrage and also a sense that if they allow the military to get away with this, to end the 10-year experiment in democracy, which has transformed the lives in particular of younger people, and you see so many young people at these protests, that they will lose their chance for the better life they hoped they would get. There's a huge amount of passion behind these protests, and it's not just in Yangon. It's remarkable how many places are having protests every day. I mean, really small towns I've never even heard of before, we're suddenly finding popping up with rallies going on. So this has the hallmarks at the moment of a nationwide uprising, even though there's no central organisation. Aung San Suu Kyi and her party are playing very little role as far as we know so far. She's still in detention. But for all that, it is quite a serious threat to the new military junta, because they don't appear to have much control, certainly not over the protests, in most of the country, not even in their own capital, Nay Pyi Taw. That capital was built by the military to be a fortress where it would be very hard to hold protests. For a long time, there were only civil servants living there, yet we've seen really passionate demonstrations there today and the most violent confrontations with the police. You were talking about rubber bullets. We do believe that live rounds were fired because the one woman who's in critical condition appears to have been hit by a live round in the head. So it has escalated there, and it tells you how serious this situation is now for the men who led the coup last week.
Jonathan, we're currently seeing this in the hands of the police, and it is getting out of hand, and they are trying to control it. But the real worry will be when the army comes out onto the streets.
Yeah, I like the way you use the word when. You know, knowing Myanmar's history, that does seem an inevitability. I do get the sense that the government, the new regime, doesn't want to do that yet. They've let these protests run for 4 days, but the police are not proving very effective in crowd control. And this is just happening over such a wide area. And we're seeing very different approaches from the police. Quite a lot of force used in Nay Pyi Taw with casualties. But in other places, the police either standing by. In Yangon, they did nothing to try and stop the protest today. Or even in some cases, the police have gone over to the side of the protesters, or at least let them pass. Now, if that carries on, if the police lose morale and decide that these protesters have got right on their side, and it's a very strong argument when you think of how many people voted for Aung San Suu Kyi just last November, then the military will have to step in, and they don't have water cannon or crowd control techniques. All they have is live rounds. You know, nobody wants to go back there. There have been such terrible periods in the past of bloodshed on the streets in Myanmar, but it's very hard to see that being avoided when you have a movement that has so much momentum behind it, so much popular sentiment, and an army that genuinely believes it's done the right thing and that it must now exert its control over the country.